Well, it's election season. It happens once every 4 years. We all know it's coming. Can you feel the tension? Everybody has an opinion. Do you have an opinion? I bet you do. But do you know what you believe? Do you know how to express your opinion? Could you communicate it in a gracious way with facts and figures? As moms, we don't have a whole lot of time for extra stuff. But today on our show, we are going to help you figure out with a little magic little book that we found. And I'm telling you, it's going to help you understand what conservatives believe and how to communicate in a accurate, truthful, and kind way. On Moms Like Us Do Things Just Like This. Welcome to the Moms Like Us podcast, where moms just like you learn strategies, systems, and skills through expert interviews and real-life insight designed to take your marriage, mothering, and home to the expert level. Hi, I'm Mona Corwin, your mom mentor and host, author, international speaker, and the founder of the Moms Like Us Academy. I've been coaching moms for over 25 years, and I have some really good news for you. Motherhood isn't a natural talent. It's a skill, and you can learn it. You can crush it at motherhood instead of motherhood crushing you. So let's get to today's show. Okay, little mama. The Bible tells us that we are to be ready with an answer for the hope that we have. So again, are you ready? Can you be ready with the hope that you have for what you believe? Not just what I believe or what I'm going to tell you about what conservatives believe. So if you're not a conservative, well, even if you're not a conservative, you still might want to listen to this show and learn how to stand for what you believe, because moms like us have to do things like this. We are the ones that are preparing the next generation, and we want our children to see us doing that. We want them to know how we can do it. There's a really cool little quote in this little book I found for you. And it says, know this, you can look for the truth or you can bury your head in the sand, but both require digging. Now that's an unknown author, but it sounds like a mom said it to me. Friend, the truth is we can't live with talking points anymore. The stakes are too high, and there's a lot that we need to know. You don't have to be a constitutional expert to influence the people around you, but you do, however, have to have information and a bit of courage. And let's just set aside Republican, Democrat for now and talk about what is conservative and what is radical. And that is going to help you. The way we're going to do that is we're going to talk to a friend of mine. Her name is Amy Travis, and she is the founder and president of STAND Coalition. Good name, right? It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's committed to influencing the culture through biblical truth and political action. Now, Amy is the author of 9 books, which is a feat in itself, and including The Truth About Love, How to Graciously Push Back on a Godless Culture. We did a podcast with Amy on that, and you might want to go and listen to that one. It is an excellent book for you to have and to teach your kids. Okay, but today I wanted to talk about Amy's newest book. It is The Conservative's Guide to the Election Season and Beyond. It is time that we need to do it. And this little book that I'm going to show you is absolutely going to help you. You can also watch her wisdom on What in the World, a look at current events through the lens of truth. And that is a podcast that Amy does. And you're going to want to get a hold of that. Now, Amy holds a master's degree in organizational leadership from South University, as well as several certifications in business, including project management professional and Sigma Six. She and her husband, Perry, have been married for over 36 years. They have 3 adult children who all currently are serving in the military. And Amy lives in Butler, Pennsylvania. And you know what that means. Yes, Amy's husband was at the the rally where our president was an attempted assassination of our President Trump. And so she is definitely on her ready, and the people in PA are also. So let's see. Amy, I'm going to have Amy come up and visit us.
Hello.
Let me just get you. There you are. Hi, Amy.
Hello. How are you, Mona?
I'm so
I'm
glad.
excited to be here.
I know you are. Amy and I have had more than a little more than a little trouble today with technology. I bet you can understand that. It's just when there is something really good and the enemy doesn't like it, he can make it really hard for people like me and Amy to do what we do. But you know what? When you persevere, it does happen. So this is a podcast that you're going to want to listen to. Now, the book I was talking about, Amy's little book, and the reason when I first got it, I thought, man, I wish you'd made it bigger because I'd like to know a whole lot more. But then I realized she's brilliant. It goes in your purse. And when I started looking at what was inside of it, I was really glad I could put it in mine. Amy, tell us about how you came about putting together this awesome little book.
Sure. So it really started after having several conversations with friends who, by their own admission, were low information voters, right? So they're moms, they're people that have careers, they don't have a lot of time to research and be able to put together cohesive arguments. And I thought, I have enough information floating around in my head that I should be able to put this together and to figure out a way to clearly express in simple terms what we believe and how to defend our positions.
Well, that is exactly. I'm looking at the table of contents here that really helps you quickly get where you need to go. Amy's other book also has a lot of information that is really good, but this little thing is packed full, and I'm really grateful to have it. If you're in the Moms Like Us Academy, you're going to be getting one of these for our September or October surprise. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have told you it's a surprise. Oh, well. Now you know it's coming into your mailbox and it can be in your purse. So, Amy, I'm gonna just pick a couple of these chapters for us to kind of talk about. Tell us, I think first of all, we get kind of wrapped up in talking points and we just start assigning identity to ourselves. And of course, our identity is in Christ. But can you tell us what the identity, format or what a conservative truly looks like and what they believe? So we can see if we actually want to align ourselves with that.
Exactly. And that was always one of the challenges, I think, even for the Republican Party is, that word conservative and someone has asked me recently, well, what do you conserve? So it's kind of, it can be a vague term, but Speaker Mike Johnson, so even before he became the Speaker of the House, I believe it was back in 2019, he helped put together a list of the 7 core values of what conservatives believe. So it is in the book. And I think that's an important part of the book because, like you said, we need to know what it is we believe or what it is that conservatives believe so we can see if that's something we want to align with. So bear with me a second. Let me get to that page so I don't
Page
misquote
19.
19, thank you. I was close.
I see a quote from, while you're finding that, from Pastor Jack Hibbs, and it says, "The time for recreational Christianity is over." And there's a lot of controversy about whether people should be talking about politics in churches or not, but that doesn't matter, and we're not going to really talk about that today. But what is true is that if you're a believer, then you truly need to know what you believe if you're going to label yourself something and how to back it up with scripture, which Amy does in this book. So, Amy, go ahead and outline what maybe the central beliefs are of American conservative movement.
Okay. Wonderful. So number 1 is individual freedom.
Mm.
Number 2 is limited government. 3 is rule of law. 4 is peace through strength. 5 is fiscal responsibility. 6 is free markets. And 7 is human dignity. So you can see that that covers our constitutional rights when we're talking about individual freedom and limited government. That is the purpose of the First Amendment, is to limit government's influence over individuals. Rule of law, so that's the whole funding or refunding of the police, and that establishing rule. And we know that God is the God of order, not of chaos. So I believe that
So
that
good. So
fits
good.
perfectly. And peace through strength is really the foreign policy of conservatives, is that we are seeking peace, but we understand that in order to establish and to maintain peace across the earth, particularly in the Middle East, as we're seeing, that the United States has to project strength. And that is what we're not seeing from this current administration, among other things. But 7, the human dignity, free markets, of course, is this is what we practice here in America, and the reason why we are so incredibly prosperous. And the opposite, the antithesis.
Capitalism would fall under that, correct?
Correct.
Right. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
No, that's
capitalism.
fine. And actually, I came to understand recently. So capitalism was a derogatory term given to us to make it sound negative when it's not. But free markets is, and capitalism is the key to our prosperity in America. And socialism, if I could just touch on that real quickly, because a lot of people don't understand what socialism is. And so our college students have been told that that's free stuff, right? But it's not. No such thing as a free lunch, right? So yeah, so let me explain a little bit about socialism, because there's definitely some confusion there. I know our college students are being told that it's free stuff, which it's not. The most important thing to understand about socialism is it is when the government takes over the means of production. So what that means is if you have your own business, your family has your own business, you have a restaurant, you have a manufacturing company, the government actually comes in and takes it over and distributes it in the wealth as it sees fit. And this is something that happened in Venezuela, where they took over. Venezuela was a very, very prosperous democratic country in South America. The government came in, and it always starts semi-democratic method, like it looked like a free and fair election, but was not, that type of deal. And so they were producing millions of gallons of oil, and energy is the key to prosperity all around the world. Everybody knows it too. So they came in and took over even privately owned oil refineries. They took them over, and they basically just tanked the company. They went from producing millions of gallons per day to like 150,000, like in a very quick period of time. And so that is why socialism is so dangerous. And that's why free markets is so incredibly important. And of course, the last one, human dignity. That's what we see with protecting our children, protecting our unborn children, protecting all of our children at every stage of life.
Oh my gosh. That is so if we were doing the policy issues, you have a list of these policy issues, these you may not hear those other words that we just described. You may not hear those as talking points, but you will hear these policy issues at a glance. I'll read them, and then Amy, you pick a couple to maybe touch on. Pro-Judeo-Christian values. These are from the very beginning. Our country was founded on this. Very, very important. We're pro-life. We're pro-free speech. We're pro-free markets. We are pro-energy independence. We're pro-constitution. We're pro-traditional family. We're pro-police and gun rights. We're pro-national sovereignty to protect our borders. We're pro-Israel, and we're pro-protecting children from predators. We're pro. That's what we are. Okay. What one would you got a couple in there that are your favorite, Amy?
Sure. So I think what's important to recognize is that the other side has taken and twisted the language. Okay, so one thing we hear a lot is gun control, and it's made to sound like a good thing. Oh, we're protecting individuals because we're controlling the guns, but that is very deceptive, and that's why we are pro Second Amendment. We are pro the ability of people to protect and defend themselves. And so when our founders put down the Constitution under the Second Amendment, it wasn't that they had just come back from a hunting trip. It's that they had just come back from defending themselves and their family from a tyrannical government. And that's why it's important that us as average citizens have the ability to not only own, but to carry and to even be able to find ammunition for the same type of weapons that the military and the police force would have. Because when they want to come for our guns, the government and law enforcement is still going to have guns, but average citizens will not. And that's why it's so important to understand that. And I encourage your moms not to be fooled by the gun control. They have actually found, and one of the points that I make here for later in the book is they have found that gun-free zones is one of the most dangerous things you can do, because you are advertising to criminals that no one else in this area is going to have a weapon to be able to defend themselves.
Yeah, a free zone. Really? It sounds like a free zone for chaos.
It's a free-for-all zone, right?
Yes. Now
But
we do
gun-free
know
zones are not
we do
productive.
we do know, Amy, that there are other places in the world who do not have guns, like Australia and some other countries. But during the
Cuba.
yes. Oh, can you believe that?
Yeah.
That's why when the Cuban people that I know that come over, first thing they do is buy a gun. It's like, I got my
Exactly.
gun.
Exactly.
But in Australia, during the pandemic, the people had no way, if they would have had to rise up against their government, they would have had nothing to use for that. It's not saying that violence is a pathway, but for when you have a law enforcement that has so much of their thumb, they're not afraid of the people either, then that's not good. And it is one of the things that has made our country safe. And so, okay, so that's really a good one. And since we're kind of defending issues here, let's talk about in the book. I can't tell you how much good stuff is in here. In the book, she literally has a Democrat, not Democratic, because they're not.
Correct.
A Democrat talking point, like Republicans created the border crisis. And then Amy has facts. It's not flowery. It's just 1 through 8 and gives you all the information that you need to know when you are talking about this. And you could literally pull this out of your purse and say, you know what? I have some facts on that, and read it. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to be, Megyn Kelly, although she's beautiful and she's really talented. We all should want to be like that. But we don't have to be, because we can have this kind of thing waiting for us. Which one of the talking points is your favorite, Amy?
I think when you talked about the border wall, there is so much misinformation that the Democrats are putting out, because that is probably the top issue right now in the country, is that they have actually physically and intentionally opened the border. And so one of the things that they like to say to cast a shadow on us is that Republicans voted against this border security bill. But one of the things I'm learning, and as I've worked in DC and as I've gotten to know more about policy, is more often than not, if not all the time, when the Democrats name a bill, they name it the opposite of what they're doing. Okay. So when they say the border control bill, that should be an indication to you. You should say, wait a minute, what are they trying to do? Because that's the exact opposite of what they're trying to do. And so that border control bill that was voted against by many Republicans was because it had, and the numbers are in here, 3 times the amount of money going to Ukraine as it did to allegedly secure the border.
And that's one of those things to be able to communicate graciously by saying yes. And that's Amy's other book where I've learned from her book how to push back gracefully to an ungodly culture that is not telling the truth. And it is to say, I read this statistic. We're sending more money to Ukraine than we are to take care of our border. And do you know how much fentanyl is coming across the border? Well, look, I found out right here. Look at this. Facts will really help. And when you communicate them with, hey, look what I found, or did you know this? Or I was surprised when I found out this. Or, I just read the Constitution for the first time and the Bill of Rights. And what do you know? Well, Amy's got it here. Just saying. Okay, so let's talk about another one. Immigration, that's kind of the same thing. Yeah, you got a lot on border security. I like the economy one because I think that also is one that we don't really know how to talk about. And
because there's so much misinformation that's being given.
Yeah, let's talk about that one. 28, page 28. So much. And you're up to date on all of your thing. And then she always gives a bottom line. So if all you can do is look at the bottom line, you can look at that. And in contrast, the promises that were made by President Trump on how his administration will bring back our economy. And it will give you the things that you need to know. This is such a good.
Thank you. The main thing when it comes to the economy, and I just heard President Trump say this recently, but this is so true, and it's actually tied into the environment, is that energy. So food, water, and energy are the 3 things that are needed for a prosperous society. Okay, so obviously we're aware of food and water, but energy drives food production. It drives clean water. So the very first thing that President Biden or, whoever, whatever did on day 1 of their administration is they blocked the Keystone Pipeline that was going to allow the U.S. to not only be energy independent, but to be energy dominant. And I've noticed that they keep saying that, we're producing all this oil, we're producing more oil than we ever have. It's not true. It's a lie. They have made us dependent on countries, actually on countries that hate us when we have so much oil right under our feet. And actually, I think there's some information in the book also about just which states have the most. They all do. Pennsylvania, for example, Texas is very obvious. We're aware of that. But even Pennsylvania has a lot of oil and natural gas resources, and fracking is actually the process they use to get the harder to reach ones. And so Pennsylvania is a huge fracking economy. And
I'm sorry, do you have the term fracking in your definition section? I don't see it. Can you just tell the girls what fracking is?
Okay.
I don't. It would have been a good one, but
yeah,
it is a small book. But can you just, since it's not in the book, they can get it here. Tell us what fracking is.
Okay, so fracking is the oil that is first surface. And for example, here in Butler, PA, we actually have a oil lease on our property right here. So they actually go under our property to mine the oil and the resources from there using the process called fracking. So it's not the big, towers, the oil mills, but it's to reach the pockets underneath the surface. And so that's what fracking is in a nutshell. That's a very, very oversimplified explanation.
So
But
it's a method to get underneath areas that are populated.
yes, yes, and harder to reach areas of gas and these resources.
Well, one of the things that I know about talking about oil with someone is just to ask them how much it costs for to fill their tank. When it takes so much to fill your tank, you know that we're not producing the most oil. So that right there is an indicator on
Yeah.
whether or not, because when the price of oil goes up because there's more of it, then we actually get, no, I did it backwards, but you know what I'm
Supply and
saying.
demand.
You
Exactly.
know
I
what
know
I'm
what you're
saying.
saying.
You know what I'm saying. And with the economy, all of that is the same thing. You don't have to talk to people very much for them to understand that their food is way too expensive. And it is based on what is going on inside the Biden administration with oil and gas and controlling stuff
Exactly.
and sending money off to people that instead of taking care of our own people.
Exactly. And Mona, can I make a point that's not
Yeah.
in the book because it's come out very recently? So it came out
Mhm.
after the book was published, but actually just in the last couple of weeks, uh, Kamala Harris, her what she is saying, her method to reducing food costs are going to be to cap and to punish people that break the. Geez, I just forgot the term that she used. Uh,
Price gouging.
Price gouging, yes. So, and something that your mom should be aware of, anytime you hear someone talk about that they're going to go after, okay, so they're going to prevent people from doing a certain thing. What they're actually saying is that they are going to have to build up the government agencies to go after those individuals, okay, like the IRS, like the Food and Drug Administration, and that should be a huge red flag
Mhm.
right away because that's what socialism is. It empowers the government. We don't want government controls. We want, and that was one of the principles we talked about earlier is limited government is we want less government interference and less government control because that's what happens is all of those resources have been directed to funding government agencies and that has driven up that's part of why the cost of living has been driven up too is because the government has borrowed so much money and just it is and it's all taxpayer money that they use to fund these agencies that are then going to go after the local grocer that's charging $3.20 for a loaf of bread. So that's something we really need to be aware of, and that is a socialism tactic right there,
Yeah. Yes, it is.
or going after people.
I challenge moms. You may not have a lot of time, but I think this is a good one to do so you can kind of see it. So much of what we do is direct deposit from our paychecks. So whether you
Mhm.
get a paycheck or your husband gets a paycheck or you both get a paycheck, I suggest that you go in and truly look at what is being withheld from your check and the Social Security and all of that. Look at it and multiply it and realize that as you deduct that from your salary, your gross salary, you are giving a ton of money to the government.
Hmm.
And the the one that I think is the most important at this point, it is the biggest lie that I've heard and so deceptive, is the tax on unrealized capital. Amy, please explain this to the moms. Y'all, we
This
have to know what this is. You have
is
to be able to educate
incredibly,
your friends.
exactly. It is incredibly scary. Okay. And so this is not only communism or socialism, this is communism.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
So
next.
taxing unrealized gains. And again, this came out after the book was published. It's not in there. But what that's saying is that you're going to be taxed on profits that you haven't received. So for example, we've been in the same house for 35 years. Okay. I'm sorry, not 35, about 30. Let's say for some reason the value of our home goes up. The government would then come in and tax us on that $30,000. And she's saying at 25%. So let's say our home value goes up by $30,000. So 25% of that, even if we didn't sell our home. So think about that. And that's really what taxation is. And taxation is theft. It really is. And I've heard a lot of people say to me, well, we need taxes, for the roads and the bridges and all that. But when you realize how much and how many times that $1 is being taxed, even in terms of licensing fees and taxes, we pay tax. Our income is taxed, and then we pay tax on the items that we buy. So really, what tax has become is, think of it like in mob terms. It's really like protection money. It's like a shakedown. So we are really paying taxes not to fund our roads and our bridges, because they're not using it for that. They're sending it to Ukraine and all kind of places like that. Really, when we pay taxes, it's to prevent the government for us. And that's really what they did in the mobs, if you think about it.
The thought that they can do this for unrealized profits is going to liquidate your money, because you're going to have to come up with the 25%. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you've got your emergency fund, it's not going to pay for that. So you're not rewarded for buying a house and paying it down and making your communities strong, and you're punished for it. And this is a really, really bad thing, y'all. This should be the number one thing.
The middle class.
It will bankrupt the middle class.
And that is what they're going for. And we need to realize that, and we need to push back, and we need to not worry about, hurting their feelings or speaking meanly about, our Democrat lawmakers, because this is very intentional. This is to bring us to a point, their entire plan. And it's scary too when I see some of these commercials on for Kamala Harris, because they make her look almost like she's MAGA. You know what I mean? She talks about, we want to help the middle class. That is not what they want to do. And so when you get to the bottom, and so so that's what this book was intended to do, to give you things to say, whoa, stop, time out. What they're saying is not the truth, and here's the information to push back on that.
Now, Amy, you just mentioned that moves us from socialism into communism, that exact thing. There's lots of things that would do that, but this particular thing is so clear, and they're acting like this is a really good thing, and it truly is a move into communism.
It is.
And just briefly, can you tell us the difference tell us what communism is and Marxism? I think you have another book you need to write on taxes. Just saying. I'll go away with you. We'll both write our books. We'll get it done.
Yes, it sounds like a plan.
Okay, so back to my question,
So
the
yes.
communism.
So socialism, communism, Marxism, and I think the thing we need to realize about that is that those terms are thrown around, and even for individual countries, they all realize socialism in different ways. For example, China has a market economy, but they're communists. Okay, so um, the bottom line, though, is socialism is the early phase of communism. Okay, so that's just when the government comes in and starts to take over, our economy. They force when they use force and a military takeover. Okay, so it starts as socialism, and it eventually moves on because there has to be violence at the end. Like that's where it's leading to. So communism, like I said, is the early phases because whoever controls the money controls the people. Whoever controls the food controls the people. And so when you look at what happened with Cuba, I had the privilege of going to Cuba in 2015. My husband and I did one of the best experiences of my life. And so this is a beautiful country with amazing, intelligent, highly educated people who live under a system of complete oppression. And so it always starts in the same way. And this is actually in another one of my books when I talk about communism and socialism and contrast it with capitalism. And that is the pursuit of liberty. But that's another subject, another topic for another day. But if you're interested, that has a lot more information in there on those subjects.
Very good.
So
Okay.
did I
And
answer
then,
your question?
yeah, you did. You
Okay.
did. Y'all, it's not good. And they're all the
It's
same.
not good. Oh, it's
They're
not good.
not, they are not capitalism. Be proud that you're a capitalist. I remember
Absolutely.
I went into a CVS and I was trying to get the the card thing to work. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I pushed the wrong button. And he goes, no, it's all right. They're all different. I'm like, yeah, I love it that they're all different. And he kind of looked at me like, okay. And I said, no, I love it because if they're not all different, you know what that means, right? And he said,
What
no.
did he say?
He said, no,
That
I
the
don't.
government's controlling it.
I said, the government is going to have to take it over and make them all the same. And he goes, oh, I said, that's not good, is it? He said, no, and then I said, but we're Americans, we're capitalist. And so I love it that all of these are
Awesome.
different. I love
Awesome.
it. And you have a good day.
Exactly.
So
And
being able to do stuff like that.
sure. And to your point there, the other thing we need to protect is cash,
Mm.
physical greenbacks, because that is all part of the government control. Is if they can monitor and they can know every transaction, we need to stay very far away from that. And it's important for us to remember too that cash is legal tender. That means that they have to accept it. And so we're starting to see, I don't know about you, but I've gone into Chipotle and they'll say, oh, change shortage. We're not accepting cash. No, are accepting cash. They want you to believe that there's a change shortage. There's no such thing. Again, that is propaganda to move us into a cashless society. And the reason you move to a cashless society is to empower the government.
And then they
We
decide,
can't get there. We can't do that.
no. And then they decide one day there's a breach and it's shut down. And when it comes up, you're $10,000 less. So
Exactly.
another reason why when I talk to you moms about fortifying your financial stuff as a mom is to have every so often make sure that you have a paper, just print out one of your statements, print out some things, You should always have a copy of your title. You should always have a couple
Mm.
title of your car.
Yes.
All of those
Yes.
things you should have in a fireproof box. So when something happens to the internet and it comes up and it's not quite what you remember, you will have something to go back
Mm,
and at
that's
least
good.
have your account number. What happens if they say, I'm sorry, I can't get you in? There is no passwords. What is your account number? And this is not a conspiracy theory that I'm doing here. It's
Mhm.
just, what if some of these things happen? We have to be able to protect what's already ours. And that's just what good capitalists do.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
And yes, and so one of the things I think we're going to see as we get closer to the election is cyber attacks because it's a, kind of like the pandemic, scamdemic, it's an invisible enemy, right? So cyber attacks, so they can tell us really anything that they want us to know, like, oh, this cyber attack from Russia just shut down a bank. Well, we have no way of proving that. And so that's an excellent point you make that we need to have paper documents and we need to have cash, and diversifying is a good way to do that too. We're not we don't need to get into this now, but even gold and silver and physical assets that hold value.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And some of these things y'all know, and we're not here to scare you. You have enough to do with
mm,
toddlers that are fighting in the other room. But there are things that
mm,
mom can do. And one of those things is to have a book like this to just quickly educate yourself. I want to tell you that she has a quick guide to the Constitution. It has all the articles and just a quick, what is it? What does it mean? What are they for? So if you had to go look for something, you absolutely could. And also the amendments, the 11 to 27 is the constitutional amendments in our, and I love this because it's quick and it's easy and you can read it and know it. We need to know, like, you need to know that what the Eighth Amendment is. Do you know what the Eighth Amendment is? You know what, girl? I didn't know what it was. I mean, I knew what the fifth was, and I knew what the first was, and I knew what the second was. But the eighth one is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment afflicted. You kind of need to know that when your bail is like, when they put you in jail for something or somebody that you need to know what they can do. And the search and seizure, you need to know that one, that
yes.
they can't just come into your house. And,
Mm-hmm.
I,
Right.
even when you get pulled over and they want you to get out of the car or something like that, there are
Exactly.
things that you can say that triggers the police to go, oh, she knows I can't make her get out of the car.
Right. Right. You need to understand your rights. And so the search and seizure, the protection against unlawful and unnecessary. So the Patriot Act, which is what has redefined our airport security, is
Mhm.
very unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And they know that, which is why they renewed the Patriot Act, I believe in the last year, quietly under our noses, because there's no need for that. And that's what government surveillance is all about, is uh, really going against law-abiding citizens. And we see that
Amy,
they are empowering criminals to come into our country. And yeah,
I have a question. Um,
sure.
are they, I kind of heard this, but I don't know if it's true or not. They're not allowed. I mean, we don't have to stand in front of that camera with our face, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't have to
However,
we don't have to go through the things either. We can actually get patted down.
Well, technically, we can push back on that, but I know one of the things that they do. And so if you're going to do that, and I encourage you to do that, is you have to allow more time, because they have the ability to tie us up for a long time waiting for a supervisor. So if we say, I don't want this eye scan, they say, okay, fine, stand over here. We'll bring a supervisor and they can, you know, unfortunately, they have the ability to mess with us, but I think that and I'm seeing the eye scans, they look like they're becoming less mandatory. I could be wrong. I thought I saw that somewhere, which would
Well, I
be a
went to
wonderful thing.
when I went to Nashville last week. It was at Love, and I went up and he said, put your face in front of the camera." And I said, "No, I don't do that." And
What do you say?
he said, "No, you need to put your face in front of the camera." And I said, "But you have my picture right there, and here's my face." And he said, "You need to put your face in front of the camera." And I thought, maybe this isn't an eye scan because he called it a camera. And so that's when I walked through and I went, crap, I shouldn't have done that. But I was in a hurry. And of course,
Well, exactly.
know.
And that's the thing, unfortunately. And that's why going back to the election, why elections are so important is because we need to use whatever constitutional authority we have to put the right people in place.
Yeah.
So that does not mean that our battle is going to be over. Like we are still going to have to alert even when the Trump administration takes over, alert, and we still have to understand our rights and push back and lobby our congressmen when necessary. So we have to know. We have to know the truth.
Okay. And then she has wonderful scriptures in the back about what it is to have a Christian conservative worldview. And, very easily you would be able to see them. And then she has scriptures that you can use because sometimes people can have other things that they're going to say, oh, but this is, in government. Well, this is this and this is that, and the fact isn't this and the fact isn't that. And then you can say, but if you're a Christian, then this is what God's word says. And
here's
it's
where it
so
says
easy. It's so easy because God, our Constitution and all of our laws and our lawmakers were actually Christians, and they based it on the way the Bible says to have government. And when you study that, which if you ever want to know about that, please let me know. Because I have a great series that I have done. And maybe we could have that available in the Moms Like Us Academy sometime, where we go through and see how our government set up and how it matches the Bible. And she has that in the back. And it's, human life is special, and there's scripture for it. God created us male and female. It's God and not the state. Traditional family was designed for our benefit. All of these things are in this wonderful, wonderful little book. And there you have it. I'm so happy to have my copy. Amy said, "You didn't have to buy that." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I wanted it in my pocket because this was going in my purse, and it's just great to be able to do it. And you can help your kids understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see something out somewhere and you say, that doesn't seem right. That seems like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, let's look it up and see, well, you know what? This is what that our 17th Amendment says, you know? Oh, yeah, I know what that one is. That one is changes in the salaries of the senators and representatives. That's the 27th Amendment. We need to take care of that. We need to do that one. Anyways, Amy, do you have anything else that's just burning on your heart that you want these mamas to know?
Just real quickly, if we can go back when you said, I'm hearing a lot of pastors say, you can't put your trust in, if you're putting your trust in a presidential candidate, and that's true. But what I would encourage you as a believer in Jesus is that is not a binary choice that we are going to trust God or we are going to trust a presidential nominee. And in fact, when Jesus was approached with this very same thing, if you remember, they tried to trap him and they said, should we pay taxes to Caesar or do we just trust God? And what did he say? He said, render to Caesar what's Caesar into God's with God. So we need to trust both more than ever. We need to trust the Lord that it as if it's entirely up to him, and we need to work our tails off and to understand what we believe and what the Constitution says as if it's all up to us, because God is empowering us to do that, and he's given us a sound mind.
That's
So that's
awesome.
all I
So
got.
good.
I
So
appreciate you.
good.
This
Oh
is
my
fun.
gosh. I love getting with you and talking about
I
this kind of
know
stuff.
this
It's
is
so
really
fun for
fun.
me. Moms, I just want to tell you that one of the ways that you can do this the best is to vote early and to take someone with you. We need people to vote, and don't just think it's not going to matter, because it is going to matter. We get our ballots in early and we get them locked in. So, and you can't vote again. Don't go vote twice, because you know that's
No,
wrong.
no.
But take somebody with you and call your friends and say, did you vote today? And have you voted? That is an easy thing for you to do. And moms can't always go out and pound the streets, but we can do what we can do within our sphere of influence. And you are going to be an influence if you have this wonderful book that Amy has written. And of course, like I said, she does have 9 other ones, and you can find her at Amy, what is your website?
Standforgodandcountry.com.
There you go. Can't
And write
forget
out
that.
the stand and ANDFOR. So write it all out. No numbers or symbols.
Right. And are you on Instagram too, Amy?
I am at stand. So it's stand the I'm sorry, the letter 4, the number 4. Stand for God and Country.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can just go on Amazon and put Amy Travis in there, and all of them are going to come up. And of course,
Yes.
I
Amy L.
don't know.
Travis is it make it a little easier. So
They're
because
going to
there's
find you,
more than one
because
of us.
they're going to want it. They're going to keep going until they find it. So
Okay.
that's it for now. There's moms like me and Amy that are trying to help you weekly with all the things that are involved. Now, Amy is also an expert in the Moms Like Us Academy. And when questions come through the Academy, Amy will answer them for us if we need help. And if you don't know about the Moms Like Us Academy, I want you to just wait a little bit after this, and we're going to show you some little tidbits of the Academy, because you know what? Moms like us do things like this. And when we do, I want you to be there. Bye for now.